What do you miss the most?
The audience, the smiling faces and the happy faces, and see, we sold 700,000 tickets last year, and so all these tickets are still there, and the people write me mails and say, André,
for decades, André Rieu has captured hearts around the world with his violin, his orchestra, and his beautiful performances. But behind the music and standing ovations, there's been a side of him nobody truly knew. Now he's finally opening up, revealing secrets about his life that fans never expected. From personal struggles to choices that shaped his career to what drives him, it's all coming to light. Join us as we delve into the maestro's life and uncover the stories that have been kept private for years. The other side of André Rieu. André Rieu often stood inside his Maastricht home and looked over the old streets with a feeling that his life was still full of fire. The idea of drifting across the sea on a cruise ship never matched the person he believed he was. André Rieu did not want a slow life or long days of rest. He still reached for the stage each time he woke up. Even when André Rieu allowed himself a short break, he kept it small. Every year he traveled with his family to Rome for just 3 days, enjoying the calm moments before returning to heavy schedules, rehearsals, and new plans. Retirement was something André Rieu never accepted for himself. His mind kept filling with fresh ideas, often faster than he could turn them into real shows. He liked to say, half joking and half serious, that he was only halfway through his journey and could easily live to 140. That statement showed how much hope André Rieu still carried inside him. He imagined new tours, new cities, and new ways to make each concert shine brighter than the one before. But the truth started to press against him. His body no longer matched the energy of his dreams. After each concert, he struggled to sleep, and those long nights without rest became dangerous. Even so, André Rieu kept moving because the music inside him refused to fade. When the world shut down during the lockdown, a different kind of struggle fell on André Rieu. Every concert hall closed, every tour stopped, and suddenly he was left in a heavy silence he had never known. André Rieu said those months felt like pure torture. Without the sound of violins, without crowds, and without the rush of performing, his life felt strangely empty. To fill the long days, André Rieu looked for something new. That was when he stepped into the kitchen and began to bake. At first, it was only a way to pass time, but soon it brought him small comfort. Late at night, when André Rieu still could not sleep, he watched baking videos on his phone and learned new tricks and recipes. He tried different flavors and different shapes, and slowly, his kitchen filled with warm smells that made the house feel alive again. Online, he shared some of his creations with his fans, and they reacted with surprise and affection. They loved seeing André Rieu in such a simple human moment, far from the stage and full orchestras. This new hobby allowed people to see the musician in a different way. It made André Rieu feel closer to them, and it showed a personal side of his life that many had never imagined. That small hobby took him to a new place. André Rieu received an invitation to appear on the Dutch version of the Great British Bake Off. Viewers were amused to see him there, baking with the same focus he used on stage. Some fans playfully wondered if André Rieu was preparing for a second career, but he never saw it that way. Baking helped him relax, helped him think, and helped him breathe during a difficult time. But the violin still held his heart. However, he eventually understood that he could not keep moving at the same speed forever. The long flights and demanding travel patterns were harder now, but he still wanted to bring music to people who loved it. André Rieu knew that no kitchen in the world could replace the feeling of standing before thousands of people with music rising all around him. So André Rieu began shaping a new rhythm for his life. He imagined shorter tours, fewer trips across the world, and more evenings in the comfort of his own home. That change did not weaken his passion. It simply gave André Rieu space to keep playing without losing his strength. His goal stayed the same: to share beauty, joy, and emotion with anyone who came to listen. What André Rieu created in classical music was something rare and bright. He picked pieces that touched the heart, mixing famous works with melodies that made people laugh or cry. People from different countries and different ages came together because André Rieu made the music feel like it belonged to everyone. He showed that when music is shared with love, it becomes more than sound. It becomes a feeling people carry with them long after the last note fades. Meanwhile, his beginning was an interesting one. The making of a maestro. André Rieu grew up in a lively and busy household as the third of 6 children. His father, Andries Antony Rieu, worked as the conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra, and that role filled their home with music day and night. André Rieu grew up hearing strong, beautiful sounds echoing through the rooms, and those early moments shaped the way he saw the world. Even as a young child, he felt drawn to music in a deep and natural way. At only 5 years old, André Rieu picked up the violin, not knowing that it would become the center of his entire life. He loved the world of orchestras, but he later admitted that his parents, especially his father, were strict and demanding when it came to music and discipline. André Rieu took his early steps in formal music training at the Conservatoire Royal in Liège. He then continued his studies at the Conservatorium Maastricht from 1968 until 1973. At Maastricht, André Rieu learned under respected teachers Joe Juda and Herman Krebers, who helped shape his technique and confidence. After he finished his studies in the Netherlands, André Rieu moved to Brussels to attend the Music Academy. There, from 1974 to 1977, he trained under André Gertler and pushed himself to the highest level. When he completed his studies, André Rieu earned the Premier Prix, one of the most respected honors from the Royal Conservatory of Brussels. In 1975, André Rieu married Marjorie Kochman, a woman who shared his creative spirit. Marjorie had worked as a language teacher, but she also wrote music, which made their connection even stronger. Together, they raised 2 sons. One of those sons, Pierre, later became an important part of André Rieu's career. Pierre eventually joined the Johann Strauss Orchestra as a producer and has played a key role in the success of the concerts. Over time, André Rieu became fluent in 6 languages: Dutch, English, German, French, Italian, and Spanish, making his concerts feel more personal to international audiences. André Rieu made his home in Maastricht, choosing a charming medieval castle as his residence. He often said that the castle was once the home of Charles de Batz-Castelmore, the legendary figure known as D'Artagnan. The history and style of the building matched André Rieu's love for elegance and stories. In 1987, André Rieu began the Johann Strauss Orchestra, which at first included only 12 musicians. Their first concert took place on January 1, 1988. Slowly, the orchestra expanded into a large and powerful group, eventually growing to around 60 members who traveled the world together. As André Rieu grew older, he stepped away from the strict and traditional methods he learned from his father and formed his own style. André Rieu performs with a rare Stradivarius violin from 1667, an instrument that helps create the smooth, rich sound he is known for. With his orchestra, André Rieu has toured across Europe, the Americas, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. In 2008, he even brought along a full-scale replica of Empress Sisi's castle, creating one of the largest traveling stages in concert history. By 2016, André Rieu's estimated net worth reached around 25 million euros. For decades, André Rieu has given people unforgettable experiences with his music. His concerts brought joy, color, and excitement to millions of fans around the world. He became famous for his beautiful violin playing, his warm stage presence, and the emotional power of his performances. As the leader of the Johann Strauss Orchestra, André Rieu managed to unite people from different places and generations. His shows always felt like a celebration of life, filled with energy, humor, and beauty. Behind that impressive image, however, André Rieu carried a personal story that many people did not know. For years, André Rieu believed that nothing could slow him down. He felt proud that he had never canceled a concert due to sickness. He even liked to say that jet lag did not affect him, even though he flew from one continent to another almost every week. André Rieu worked harder than most people could imagine, pushing himself through long tours and constant rehearsals. Everything changed during a very important moment in 2024. That period became the start of a serious health problem that shocked him. André Rieu never expected to face something that powerful, something that nearly brought his fast-moving life to a sudden halt. Facing the unexpected. Everything for the long-awaited return had been arranged with great care. Every detail, from the stage lights to the travel plans, had been checked again and again. After 6 long years away, André Rieu was finally coming back to Mexico, a country where he had always felt a strong connection with the audience. Fans across Mexico were excited in a way that could almost be felt in the air. Many had waited for years for another chance to see André Rieu live, and when tickets went on sale, they disappeared almost instantly. The first 2 concerts in Mexico City were filled with joy. The music sounded rich and full, the crowd responded with loud cheers, and André Rieu felt grateful as he stepped onto the stage once again. But that bright happiness did not last. Less than 24 hours after the second concert, everything shifted. André Rieu's health suddenly collapsed, catching everyone, including him, completely by surprise. In the middle of the night, he woke up with an overwhelming sense of dizziness. The entire room spun around him in a slow, frightening circle, and he could not understand what was happening. By the time morning came, André Rieu felt weak, shaky, and drained of all energy. It was as if something inside him had given out after years of non-stop pressure. Looking back, it became clear that the schedule leading up to the tour had been far too heavy. André Rieu had pushed himself to finish a DVD production, all while taking fast and demanding Spanish lessons to prepare for the Mexican tour. His days were full from morning until night, leaving him no chance to rest. For a long time, André Rieu had believed that his passion, determination, and positive mind could keep him strong. He often spoke about how music carried him through anything, but now he had to face a truth he had avoided for years. After visiting several doctors, André Rieu was diagnosed with a vestibular nerve infection. This condition affects the inner ear, an area that controls balance. The shock of how even a small infection can make the world spin hit André Rieu. For him, this meant he could not walk without stumbling, could not turn his head without feeling sick, and could not stand under stage lights without losing his balance. He understood quickly that this was not something he could simply ignore or push through. It was serious and demanded real recovery. The diagnosis forced André Rieu to do something he had rarely done in his life: cancel tours. Entire performances in Australia and the United Kingdom had to be called off. For someone who loved performing more than anything, and who carried the financial responsibility of a large orchestra, staff, and crew, this news was devastating. Not only because he loved to make music, but because of fans who had come to watch him perform. Doctors told him he needed 6 months of rest, a time that felt impossibly long for a man used to working without stopping. To make matters worse, André Rieu had to undergo a brain scan to check for other dangerous conditions, including the possibility of a tumor. The test came back clear, which brought relief. But the fear he felt during that time stayed with him. The news of the cancellation spread quickly and broke the hearts of fans who had waited years to see him. But behind the scenes, the emotional weight fell heavily on the entire team. André Rieu's son, Pierre, later explained what had really happened in those days. He revealed that the problems had begun even before the first concert. The long flight to Mexico had been exhausting, and his body simply could not recover fast enough. The stress built up quickly. What began as tiredness and pressure grew into something far more dangerous. André Rieu had only one short day to rest before the first performance, and that single day was nowhere near enough. His body had been signaling him for weeks, but he kept pushing forward. Sadly, his strength collapsed. This was not a simple case of feeling worn out. André Rieu was seriously ill, and every hour made his condition worse. With the situation growing more critical, Pierre and the entire team made the difficult decision to cancel the remaining tour dates and arrange an immediate flight home. It was a painful choice, especially after so much planning and anticipation, but there was no other option. André Rieu's health had to be preserved, even if it meant disappointing thousands of fans. Everyone agreed that saving him from further harm was more important than any performance. The sound of silence. André Rieu stepped away from the concert much earlier than anyone expected. He had spent years moving from stage to stage without stopping, but this time his strength slipped away fast. When he reached the airport and boarded a flight back to Maastricht, he carried a weight he had never felt before. His body pushed him to stop, and he finally understood that he couldn't keep going the way he always had. That truth settled into him as he headed home. When he returned to the house he shared with his wife, Marjorie, the signs were impossible to ignore. He tried to think about moving dates around or pushing back the shows, but the idea faded almost immediately. His energy was too low, and he couldn't bring himself to pretend otherwise. André had always taken pride in caring for his body, but age had started to catch up with him in a way he hadn't felt before. This time, his strength didn't bounce back. For years, André had pushed through minor illnesses, stepping onto the stage even when he felt weak. He had worked through fevers, fatigue, and full days of travel, but in Mexico, his legs shook in a way that alarmed him. He felt as if he might fall in front of thousands of people, and that fear stayed with him. It was the first time his body forced him to slow down. He couldn't ignore it, and he couldn't will himself through it. During his recovery at home, supporters from around the world tried to lift him up. Messages, letters, and suggestions poured in. One person from Australia sent advice about simple balance exercises that could help him regain control of his body. He followed the steps carefully every day, moving his feet in slow patterns, focusing his eyes, and trying to stand on one leg. It took effort, but after months of practice, he noticed changes. His balance improved. This long period at home also made him look at his life in a different way. He realized he had been moving between two extremes. He was either giving everything he had to his work or collapsing into complete rest. There was no steady rhythm in between. He also saw that many tasks he had accepted over the years had nothing to do with music at all. His schedule was filled with business openings, speeches, and paperwork. None of those things fed his spirit. So he sat down and looked at his days carefully. One list held the things that brought him joy, and that list stayed small and simple. Music stood at the center of it. Family stood close beside it. The other list held everything that drained him. They pulled energy from him without offering anything in return. He decided to cut those things out, letting go of the responsibilities that had taken him away from what he loved most. Even though he felt stronger again, the illness still left its mark. 4 concerts had to be canceled, and many people who had waited months to see him perform were left disappointed. Some had traveled across countries hoping to watch him play live. Tickets would be refunded, but the concerts would not be rescheduled. He understood that he could no longer push himself through exhausting travel the way he once did. His team understood it too. The shows still planned in places like Chile, Argentina, and Colombia made him think about the future in a new way. Long tours could no longer be set years in advance. The people around him began to plan differently, choosing to move year by year instead of packing months with travel. They needed to protect his health, and he agreed. He knew he had to guard his strength if he wanted to keep making music in the years ahead. Still, even if distant shows might become rare, fans could always find him in Maastricht. The summer concerts at Vrijthof Square remained the heart of his work. Those performances held a kind of warmth he couldn't get anywhere else. The familiar streets and the deep connection with the audience helped him focus fully on the music. Playing there reminded him of why he had chosen this life in the first place. Even as he adjusted to new limits, he held on to the part of his work that continued to give him purpose. A life devoted to music. As the days passed, everyone waited for even the smallest sign of improvement. Nearly a week later, André finally began to feel some relief, but the experience had already changed the way they looked at everything. For Pierre, who had stood by his father through years of travel, rehearsals, and endless work, the message was clear. The way they had been doing things could not continue. The sudden illness had shaken him deeply. He realized that flying from place to place, performing with little rest, and keeping up with a tight calendar was no longer safe. He admitted that Mexico could not be part of their tour plans again until at least 2025. If they returned, the entire setup would need to feel different, slower, and more thoughtful. There would need to be more time between shows, more hours to breathe, and far better planning. André's age made these conversations even more urgent. At 76, the world felt different than it had when he was 50 or even 60. Long trips across several time zones drained him more than before. Recovery from jet lag took longer. His body no longer bounced back after a packed weekend of performances. Even before the illness reached its worst point, André had felt something off during the second concert in Mexico City. He had spoken to his wife, telling her that he wasn't sure he could keep doing tours like this. The joy of performing was still there, but the physical toll had grown too strong to ignore. He had pushed himself for many years, sometimes more than he should have, and now his body was speaking loudly. This time, he knew he had to listen. Ignoring the signs would only lead to something worse. Pierre explained that traveling around the globe simply wasn't as easy as it once had been. It now felt too heavy on his father's health. On top of that, André had been working under extremely high temperatures, which only made the strain worse. The crew traveling with him had also been struggling. Mexico City sits at a very high altitude, more than 2,000 meters above sea level. The air is thinner and breathing becomes harder, especially when performing under bright lights. Dorona Alberti, one of the singers who had been touring with André since January, felt the effects sharply. During her performance, she had to pause, drink water, and gather her breath before continuing. Many members of the team dealt with nosebleeds. Their faces turned red from the strain. Even simple movements left them short of breath. They tried to laugh about it, but they all felt the pressure of the thin air. Pierre later explained that canceling the tour felt terrible, but it had been the only safe choice. If André had stayed on stage, there was a real risk that he might collapse. That possibility alone made the decision clear. The financial impact was heavy, too. Merchandise sales were lost, travel plans had to be updated at the last minute, and they discovered they weren't insured for this kind of situation. The ripple effect reached every corner of the team. For the performers, the shift felt unreal. One minute they were feeling the thrill of the cheering crowd, the next minute the tour was over. As they walked through the streets after the cancellation, people still approached them for photos, not realizing how serious things had become. Many fans had no idea that they might have just attended André's final performance in Mexico. They were still smiling, still excited, still carrying the energy from the show. Outside the concert venue, the streets had turned into lively rows of sellers offering unofficial merchandise. Everywhere you looked, there were colorful mugs, soft teddy bears, and t-shirts printed with André's face. The atmosphere had been bright and full of life. During the concerts, the love they showed him was powerful and unforgettable. But behind his smile, something inside him had already begun to give way. When André returned to Maastricht, he focused completely on rest. He spent several days at home, letting his body recover inch by inch. Pierre kept hope alive for the upcoming concert in Liverpool, but he also knew the situation was delicate. No one could say for certain if Mexico had seen the last of André Rieu on stage, but the thought hung in the air like a shadow. André had always said he wanted to stay healthy so he could keep bringing music to people across the world. Now that desire felt more meaningful than ever. Everyone in his circle understood that this wasn't the first time they had felt the strain of his busy schedule, but this time it was much more serious. The tour had stopped not because of logistics or planning, but because the heart of the orchestra, the man who held it all together, needed to rest. The music would return eventually, but only when his body allowed it. At that time, the world had to wait, and André had to heal, finding balance. During the long days of his illness, André found himself fighting more than physical weakness. He struggled with the stillness around him. Sitting at home made him uneasy in a way he couldn't ignore. The quiet hours felt heavy. He missed the rush of performing, the warm lights on his face, and the feeling of music rising through him. The idea of not being able to return to the stage was almost too much to accept. That fear pushed him to look closely at his life and find a way to make his work less demanding, but still meaningful. To protect his health, André and his team decided to remove anything unnecessary from his schedule. They agreed to cut back on interviews, reduce media events, and step away from public commitments that added pressure without bringing joy. The goal was simple: make space for rest, cut out the noise, and guard the strength he still had. This wasn't about giving up. It was about protecting the part of his life that mattered most. André explained that his body gives him warnings when the pressure becomes too much. When his schedule grows too crowded, one of the organs responsible for balance begins to act up. The sensation is intense. The room tilts, the floor spins, and standing straight becomes impossible. He described it as if the world shifts under his feet. This condition has followed him for nearly 20 years, a reminder that even the strongest spirits can face limits. Though it has never fully disappeared, he has learned to manage it by paying attention to his stress levels and slowing down when he needs to. By guarding his time and energy, he hopes to keep performing the music he loves for many more years, just with more care and more space to breathe. André had already spoken openly in the past about how stress had damaged his health. That was the moment he made a promise to himself. From that moment on, he would make time for rest. For a while, he truly kept that promise. He slowed his pace, took care of his body, and seemed more at peace during his travels. Audiences could see the difference. It felt as if he had found a healthier balance. But life has a way of bringing old worries back when least expected. Nearly 10 years ago, in 2016, André suddenly canceled several tour dates. Fans became frightened almost immediately. Many remembered his past health scares and feared the worst. Rumors spread across social media within hours. People wondered if he was sick again, if something serious had happened, or if he would ever return to the stage. However, the truth, when it finally came out, had nothing to do with his own health. Someone from the Johann Strauss Orchestra, someone he cared for deeply, had passed away. The emotional weight was too much. According to a statement from André's staff, he was devastated and unable to continue performing through such heartbreak. Even though the speculation about his health was wrong, the worry it caused stayed with fans for a long time. But this moment brought André to a clear understanding. Life moves quickly, faster than anyone expects, and rushing through it only brings more harm. Now more than ever, he believes in slowing down. He believes in guarding his peace, choosing rest when needed, and honoring the things that truly matter: his music, his family, his health, and the people who have stood beside him for years. The world may continue to move fast, but André Rieu is learning to move at a pace that protects his body and his ability to keep sharing music.